Right now, an AI data center is being held up. Not by chips, not by land, not by money, by a boring gray box called a transformer. In the United States, the wait for a big one can run 4 years. And one of the few companies on earth that can build them at scale is Brazilian, a company you've probably never heard of. Started by 3 guys in a workshop. No government behind it. And today it quietly makes the machines the whole world runs on. Let me tell you what this company actually is. Its name is WEG. 3 letters. We'll get to why in a minute. It makes electric motors, generators, transformers, drives, the unglamorous iron and copper machines inside almost everything. The pump moving water under your city, the fan in a hospital, the conveyor in a factory, the crane at a port, the turbine on a wind farm. Here's the number that reframes all of it. Electric motors eat about 53% of the world's electricity. More than half of all the power humanity generates runs through a motor. In industry, it's closer to 70%. So, when I say the world runs on these machines, that's not a slogan. It's the load on the grid. And WEG is now the #1 electric motor maker on the planet. In 2025, it passed ABB, the Swiss giant, in low voltage motors. A company from a town most Brazilians can barely place on a map. Is #1 in the world at this, 64 factories, 17 countries, 47,000 employees. Sells into 135 countries. It's the second most valuable company in Brazil. Only Petrobras is bigger. Now, here's where it stops being a normal company story. Because of how it started. Rewind to 1961. A small town in the south of Brazil called Jaraguá do Sul. 3 men put their names on a workshop. An electrician named Werner, a bank administrator named Egan, a mechanic named Geraldo, WEG, that's the whole name. Their 3 initials, 1 new electricity, 1 new money, 1 new metal. First year, they built 146 motors by hand. And that's the part I need you to sit with. Because if you've watched this channel, you know the usual Brazilian success story. Embrapa cracked the Cerrado. State science. Embraer built jets, a military project. Petrobras drilled the deep oil. State-owned. Butantan makes the vaccines, a state institute. Every champion, patient government money left to compound. WEG is the exception. No state project, no founding subsidy. 3 guys in a workshop, private, family-run from a town of nobody. And that little difference is the whole personality of this company. Now, the second thing that makes WEG strange. For 30 episodes on this channel, I've told you the same painful story. Brazil has the rock. Somebody else builds the machine. The purest iron ore on earth, China turns it into steel. The cleanest green lithium, China refines it into the battery. 90% of the world's niobium, sold cheap as a steel additive. A third of the world's coffee, the margin lives in a $6 latte. It exports pulp, and Kleenex puts its name on the roll. The signature lesson of this whole channel. Having the raw material is not the same as owning the product. WEG is the one that breaks it. WEG doesn't sell the copper or the steel. It sells the machine that turns copper and steel into work. That's the highest value link in the entire chain. And it's Brazilian. It didn't even stop at exporting the machine. It went and bought factories inside the United States to make them there. In 2024, it bought the industrial motor business of an American company, Regal Rexnord. $400 million. Brands like Marathon. Roughly 2,800 workers. 10 factories. So follow the inversion all the way. This channel's whole thesis is a commodity ship leaving the port of Santos. WEG is the opposite arrow. A Brazilian company buying the American factory. That builds the finished machine. Which brings us to why this is a story right now. In 2026. And not just a nice company profile. the world decided to electrify everything at once. AI data centers, EV charging, new grid, reshored factories. All of it needs one boring thing in staggering quantities: iron and copper wound into a coil. Motors, and especially transformers. And the world cannot make them fast enough. In the US, a big power transformer now has a lead time of around 128 weeks. The step-up units next to power plants around 144. For the largest units, analysts are quoting 4 years. Prices are up 77% since 2019. Here's the one that should stop you. Of all the AI data center capacity planned to come online in 2026, only about a third is actually under construction. The rest is stuck, waiting on electrical equipment. Everyone obsesses over the chip. The real bottleneck is the gray box that feeds the chip power. And the US let this kind of heavy manufacturing wither for decades. So now the country with the best AI chips in the world is short on the dumb iron that powers them. And it is partly importing that iron from Brazil and buying it from a Brazilian company building plants on American soil. WEGZY just put $77 million into more transformer capacity in the US, aimed straight at data centers and grid stability. Remember the episode on Brazil's clean power grid, pulling in the AI boom? That was the electricity. This is the machine that moves the electricity. The brain of AI is American. We covered that. A lot of the muscle is Brazilian. Now let me be honest, because this channel isn't a brochure, WEGZY is not a cheap secret bargain. The stock is expensive, priced at close to 30 times earnings. Plenty of analysts think it's overvalued. Its costs ride on copper and steel and the exchange rate. It's up against giants with far bigger names, ABB, Siemens, Schneider. And most people outside of industry have simply never heard of it. That last one is almost the point. This is not a flashy company. It makes a product nobody photographs. It grew for 60 years without a logo anyone recognizes. And that's exactly how it ended up owning a choke point. The whole electrified world suddenly depends on. So, what's the takeaway from a motor shop in southern Brazil? It's not Brazil beats America. That's lazy, and it's not the point. The point is quieter, and it cuts against every other story here. For 30 episodes, Brazil dug up the rock and let someone else build the machine and keep the money. WEGZY is the one that built the machine. No state to hand it the win. Just 3 initials and 60 years. And the machine it chose to build turned out to be the one thing the electrified world can't get enough of. A resource is just potential. The machine is the thing that finally does the work. And every so often the country that's always selling the rock quietly builds the machine instead. If you want the other half of this, the clean power grid, that's pulling the whole AI boom toward Brazil. Watch that one next.